I've cleaned almost everything up, and this is everything that's decent, I guess. I checked out the video earlier, and I guess I did break the ring on this. My fault, but they were pretty brittle, I guess. Like I was just wiping it with a towel, and it must have snapped. This gouge here, this scratch, I cannot feel it, so it's just really just a mark. There is a little, where is it? It's right there. There is a little dent there. I did not do that, but that can be sanded down. So, everything here is fairly good, except for this is the clutch, and a couple of these little ears or these wings are broken. So there's one here, and there's one there that are broken. So I'm not sure. I think that would mess with the balance, the weight distribution of this clutch. So those would have to be replaced, or I would need to find a good used one. So other than that, everything here is usable. Everything is usable. Oh, I was also able to get the oil pump gear to start to move. It was like really badly seized, but it does move now. It has quite a bit of resistance, but it does move. You'll just have to, there it goes. It pumps. I was able to verify that it pumps. So that probably just needs a little bit more work, a little bit more lubrication. But everything here is good. So what does this chainsaw need? I wrote a list. It needs the small crank seal. The fuel line was torn. The oil line was torn. The pulse line was torn. And the intake boot was torn. And I'm not sure. I think either a complete new clutch, or at least just to replace those little ears that are broken. The chainsaw didn't come with plastics. Like I found it without plastics. I found it also without an exhaust. It didn't have a carb. Broke the rings. And if I'm going to buy rings, then I might as well just buy a new piston. And it needs a cylinder. And it needs all the bolts associated with the cylinder, and the bolts and hardware associated with the cylinder, the carb, the exhaust, and the plastics, because I don't have those things. So at this point, I look at what I need, and I look at what I have, and sourcing all of this, like the fuel line, oil line, pulse line, seal, and I also need gaskets. I didn't mark that down, but I should probably get gaskets. Sourcing all that would probably come in a kit. Getting a clutch used, I could get it, but this is adding up to about $300 to $400 of replacement parts. And there's also air filter. I should write that stuff down. I'm gonna write that stuff down so I don't forget. So, air filter. And the other thing was, now I can't remember. Oil line falls on. Anyways, it'll come to me. This is expensive. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of money trying to get all of that. Yeah, that's right, gaskets. I don't want to spend all of this money to rebuild a saw that I already have. Like, I already have an MS260, and it be like a used saw. Like, this is an old version. It might even be the 026 if that existed. But anyways, like, I'm not gonna spend $400 or $300 or $400 to rebuild one. But I often find used stuff, old stuff at the dump. So I'm marking this all down on the container I'm going to store it in, and this will serve as what's not in the container, right? Like, this is what is missing from this chainsaw. So I'll just store this, and I use chainsaws quite a bit, so I'll know what parts are inside the container. But if I do find another MS260, then I'll know, what I can grab from here. And, I dare say, like, all of the seals, gaskets, and lines, rubber lines, like all that stuff, I can get fairly cheap, on eBay or whatever. And this stuff, usually when you find an old broken saw, usually they come intact. People just throw them out because they're seized, or they've lost compression, so they don't really take them apart. Usually they don't take them apart. Usually they just toss them. So where I live, most people use Husqvarnas, but I might get lucky and find another MS260. So I've cleaned up really nice. And this is all fairly good. So I'm going to store this stuff, and hopefully I get another an MS260. I think the 026s or the 260s and the 240s, or the 026 and the 024, I think they use the same cranks. They use the same bases. So even if I find an 024, a lot of these parts will be usable. So this is concluding the teardown and assessment of the MS260.